Hi, and welcome to this Selenium recipe. In this video, we're going to have a look on how we can read data from a file and use that data in our test. So imagine you have a page like this where you have a lot of input fields and you want to use different sets of test data to test the input fields. Of course, you can do them manually, but that gets tedious. And in this case, automation would definitely make sense. So what we're going to do in this recipe and in this video is we're going to have a file where we have values for this address, streets, and so forth. We're going to read the data from the file, and then we're going to write it to the web page, or we're going to give it to Selenium as input, and Selenium will enter all the input here in the web page. So let's just have a short look. So we have this test data recipe file, which is just mumbo jumbo data. Has a mix of Harry Potter stuff, and this is in the project. Once the video is done, I'm going to upload it to GitHub, and you can use it to follow along. And so, like I said, what we're going to do is we're going to read the file, read that data, and write it via Selenium. So let's write the steps a little bit down, which we're going to perform. So first, we're going to identify the web elements. Yeah? Then we're going to read the data from the Excel, and let's just say store and send the values to the web page. The good thing is the majority, or actually all of this input fields here have an identification by ID, which means we don't have to concentrate on this part here. So let me just go into IntelliJ and add a couple of entries here. So we have the first one. And copy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I believe it's 6 elements on the page. And let me go and copy a street number. Okay, and afterwards we have route. And after the route we have locality, and after that administrative area level 1 and postal code. Okay, and postal code. Perfect. Let's just name our elements nicely. So postal code and zip. I'm missing one. Okay, that's postal code, and the last one is the country. Okay. Okay, so we have here country, state, city, and then street 1 and street 2. Okay. State, city, street 1 and street 2. Good. Now we've seen this part in a lot of videos, how we identify web elements. That's not the interesting part here. The interesting part is actually this, reading the data from the Excel. So we're going to need to do 3 things. Yeah? So we're going to get the path of the file, and then we're going to create an input stream. What's an input stream? An input stream is a way for our program to basically read the file in a simple way, if you want. Then we're going to create an instance of an XLSX file, XLSX file, and well, afterwards we're good to go. So first things first, yeah, the file path. So that's a string, yeah, whoops, string path. And how do we get this file path? So we can choose to get the relative, the absolute. We can choose to get different file paths, or to enter different file paths here. I would recommend the relative one. And how do you get that one? So you can either type it yourself, or a nice hack is go into IntelliJ and you do copy, and it has copy path. And here it says, well, you either have the absolute or the file name, and I want this one here. And in this way, the code, the Java code will know, okay, there I can find this file. Good. Now we want an input stream. So we could do input stream, and new input stream, and don't need all of this. Why do I have all of this here? I have all of this here because instead of writing file input stream, I meant input stream. With a file input stream, sorry. Okay, and file input stream equals new file input stream, which makes actually sense because we're reading data from a file and we don't want to read data from the user. Yeah, good. So this were pretty straightforward. And now the, let's say, fun part begins. So we need to tell Java, my file is of type X and Z, because you'll see in a minute, when we run the code, we will be able in our console to actually see a copy, if you want, of our Excel. And that's very important because it will help us to understand is the way we're telling Selenium, get me that piece of data from that place correct or incorrect. So how or what do we need to do to create an instance of an XLSXX file? We're actually going to say we want a workbook, yeah, and let's just say test file, and this one has a special kind of, let's say, type. To new X, well, I already did that before, so it knows. So this is an XSSF workbook, and let's just give the file input stream here. And what we have here is basically, like I said, that copy of the file. And one more thing, we will need to tell the Selenium, actually in this case we'll need to tell Java, where is the data. What I mean by that, in which sheet do we have the data? So for that, we'll create a sheet here, actually, yeah, and with test data. And the test data sheet is actually from the test file. Yeah, we want to get a sheet, and we want to get the sheet that is that is the first one that we have. Actually, this one should work like, whoops, like this. Get sheet add, actually, yeah, because that's, if we do it with the name, we need to input a name. And since in my file I had it a generic name, it's always good to do it with the index, for example. Of course, if you have the name, if you have multiple names, you can do it with the name. For you, it's better. In our case, it would be better if we don't, because I have a specific language in my Excel, and if you have another language, then the names will not match. And well, actually, we're kind of good to go here. What we will need to do in the next part is we're going to save for so address test. We're going to save all of this values in a variable, yeah? And afterwards, like I said, we're going to use them in our test. Okay, and a couple more. So city test, state, city, state, postal code, and country. Okay, test, 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 and test. Perfect. Okay, so before we write the values, let's just debug it until this point, yeah? Okay, so if we check our console, we see we have the test data here, which is our worksheet, yeah? And if we go in the worksheet, go to the rows, we see we have a couple of rows there. And if we go in the rows, we have cells, of course, because that's how Excel is formed of different cells. And we see here in row number 1, which is actually has the index of 0, and cell 0, there is the address. And what we want is so we want row 1 and column 2, which has the index of 1. We want that value for our address. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, we take the test data, which is our sheet, yeah, and then we set get row, and so we get the first row, and then we get the cell, which again is was the first one. No, that was the second one, and we get the string value of it. Okay, just copy this everywhere. And to get the other values, we don't modify the cell, but we modify the row. So 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And let's just debug it again to see if we have the correct values. And as you can see here, we have all of our values. It stopped at postal code, but yeah, it also will have our country. Okay, so now that we have the values, entering them, it's really straightforward and simple. And we can actually do it here and just say address dot send keys, and what we want to send, the address test. And the same for the street 1, send keys, going to be street 1 test, and street 2 city test. Not city test, city actually. Send keys, and that's city test. And state. And we'll just add one extra item here so we can stop it at the end. And let's just debug it. Oh, and I already see I made a mistake, but you'll see it in a minute. So if we go to Chrome driver, the WebDriver, you see that's my mistake. Here I need to put in a 6 instead of a 5, and that will basically fix our test, and we have all the values there. Okay, there you have it. This is how we can read data from an Excel. Of course, the possibilities are endless if you want. So if you have a lot more values, you can create a loop to test all the inputs and add different assertions. If I get enough comments and enough likes in the video, I can make a video about that. If not, I'll see you in the next Selenium recipe. And also have a look at one video, which I'm going to link in the description, where it tells you what you can expect in about a week. It's going to be a video about, well, watch the video. See you in the next one. Bye bye.